So just a quick overview once of the bird team, just reminding you who we are. Here's the team, kind of small right now, but we're working all of our stuff. Um, we have Helene and Brooke on the call. So just wanted to give them any opportunity for any announcements or updates.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. I don't really have any updates, but just wanted to thank everybody for submitting their URFs for quarter 3 and also the data spreadsheets. I know that was a lot of effort on your part, and I just wanted to thank everybody.
Okay, great. All right, so this topic came to us as recommendation from Brooke and Helene to discuss sustainability. I think sustainability we sort of always talk about and kind of list it as part of what we do, but we've never really dug deep into like what does it really mean? How do we assess it? And how do we really apply sustainability? So through today's webinar, we hope that you'll be able to fully define sustainability, or one of the many definitions, to be able to describe sustainability in SPIF and SAMHSA's 6 steps to sustainability, to describe how to develop a sustainability plan, and to apply sustainability tools to be able to assess and plan sustainability. So there are numerous definitions of sustainability. One definition defines sustainability as the continued use of program components and activities for the continued achievements of desirable program and population outcomes. So ultimately, what we want is the capacity to produce and sustain positive outcomes, and when new ways of working and improved outcomes become the norm. So what are some of the keys to sustainable prevention? In order to sustain prevention, it requires that we build systems, structures, and programs that can be sustained by our communities, organizations, and our funders. There are 3 objectives for ensuring sustainable prevention. Organizational capacity, which is the administrative ability to conduct and support effective prevention. Effectiveness, the ability to identify, prioritize, and implement effective strategies, the community's substance misuse that address, to implement effective strategies that address the community's substance misuse patterns and the related context. And community support, the development of positive relationships with leaders, champions, and community members who have a stake in continuing prevention work and pursuing positive prevention outcomes. So why is sustainability important? So we'd love for you guys to enter into the chat. Why is sustainability important for us in our efforts? If anyone wants to, raise their hand and share why is sustainability important? And just addressing it. So you need to keep doing good once you start, so we can sustain positive outcomes for our communities. We want to create lasting impacts that can be maintained for years to come, helps programs grow and continue when funding changes, because it means that we can carry on with our activities if grant funding goes away. Long-term impact and program continuity to build upon the trust developed. These are great answers. So overall, why is it important to sustain an effective strategic planning process? So, we know prevention takes time. Prevention needs and capacity are always evolving and new issues arise. So successful implementation depends on collaboration. And to maintain positive outcomes over time, it is important to identify and sustain your prevention programs and practices that work well for your community. So sustaining your prevention work is a guiding principle in SPIF. As you see, sustainability is in the middle of the SPIF flower, since each SPIF step actually contributes to sustainability. You're sort of assessing it throughout all of the steps. So for everyone doing community-based process, something to think about. So I have some examples listed on the slide, and I'll discuss some of the others. So in assessment, we are building relationships with data keepers and stakeholders who can play important roles in supporting and sustaining our local prevention efforts over time. In capacity, there's many roles within that sustainability is a part of in this step. Effective capacity building increases a community's ability to respond to changing issues with innovative solutions. Building capacity by promoting public awareness and support for prevention and engaging partners and cultivating champions who will be vital to the success and sustainability of our local prevention efforts. During planning, when developing a comprehensive approach to preventing substance misuse, communities should consider the degree to which prevention interventions fit with local needs, capacity, and culture. The better the fit, the more likely interventions are to be both successful and attainable. During implementation, you want to work closely with your community partners to deliver evidence-based programs and practices as intended, closely monitoring and improving their delivery, and celebrating small wins along the way. This helps planners ensure their effectiveness and begin to weave prevention into the fabric of the community. During evaluation, we want to collect our process and outcome evaluation and share those evaluation findings. So through process and outcome evaluation, communities can make important mid-course corrections for prevention and efforts, identify which practices are worth expanding and or sustaining, and examine ongoing plans for and progress towards sustaining those practices that work. Additionally, by sharing your evaluation findings, planners can also help build the support need to expand and sustain your effective interventions. So I'm going to launch on here. So I'm curious to see which SPIF steps have you incorporated some of these sustainability activities that I just shared. You can just select that and then all right, 2/3 of you decided to participate, so I think we're good. All right, so everyone, can you guys see the results? Rhonda, do you guys see the results?
Yeah, we can see it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, perfect. All right, thank you. All right, so it looks like it's pretty split, but most people report that they have, incorporated sustainability within planning, followed by evaluation capacity, and then implementation and assessment. So for those of you that selected that you've done some activities within assessment, I'd love to hear some specifics. So please please share. We love to hear so others can learn.
I can share. I'll fix the camera. So we have, I think, for Carroll County, we've really like built sustainability in the implementation of the resiliency program, because it kind of runs like on its own now. Like through Boys and Girls Club, all the locations in our county have at least one club at each location. Most of them have more than one, that run under the health department's resiliency program. So basically what that involves is them, you know, not only giving the lesson to the children, but like they collect evaluations. So we also have the sustainability and the evaluation collection and processing of all that. And it can pretty much run like on its own without me. So that was our goal, and luckily we achieved that.
How about in terms of assessment? What it specifically, or you just were given overall? Yeah.
I'm sorry, was the question just for assessment?
Oh, because I was saying, you know, there's different activities that, like the example that I kind of went over in terms of how sustainability is within SPIF. So within each of the SPIF steps, what sustainability, how has sustainability sort of been part of that step? So
for assessment, I would say, you know, we have one basic, it's like our starting survey basically for any kid that joins Boys and Girls Club or would join one of the clubs affiliated with the resiliency program, and they would complete that survey upon starting anything, and then at the end of the year we also have, so that kind of tells us like how many kids are to start with the assessment of the program. And then capacity building, I mean, we've continued building the capacity throughout. Like we started with one location of Boys and Girls Club. We've continued, you know, building capacity through all locations throughout the county. We have an awesome relationship with the director of Carroll County's Boys and Girls Club locations. You know, she comes to like all of our coalitions and brings other people as well. So the capacity just continues to build as well. And
great.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great partnership, and it's a pretty solid, like, I don't know, it's a pretty solid program to just have that continuously runs, you know, as we just kind of oversee it and help, you know.
Thank you.
Help when we can.
Yeah. Emily, you shared in the chat about your annual survey for incoming students. Are you able to elaborate with that? Are you able to come off of the,
We, for all incoming students, it used to be all students that we would survey. Now we are needing to do a random sample just because of how large our incoming student classes are. It's hard to get 4,000 surveys out. So now we're doing a random sample of our incoming first year class of students, and we ask demographic questions, certainly to get a sense of who they are and where they're coming from. And then we ask questions about substance use patterns in the previous 2 weeks or 1 month prior to arriving on campus, as well as their perceptions of substance use. We want to know what they think they're coming into as incoming freshmen, in terms of alcohol use amongst their peers and cannabis use amongst their peers, as well as their perceptions of the related risks about substance use. We need that information because every incoming class is somewhat different in some ways. And so we need that to know what direction do we need to take our education efforts at? What direction do we need to take our social norming campaigns to really help our new students on campus understand what the culture is at Towson in reality versus what they think they are coming into. And it also helps us understand if they completed the required education online programs over the summer prior to arriving on campus. those compliance rates tend to be pretty low. So it's good for us to know that. It's also good for us to know if we ask about their awareness of campus resources, whether there is a substance use policy on campus, whether there are prevention resources on campus. So there's probably, I don't know, 24 questions maybe. And then we also ask a qualitative question at the end, just so we can get some thematic understanding of our incoming class. And that's about what are you hoping for in your first year? What are your hopes and expectations as a freshman on Towson's campus? And that helps us get a sense of, are you looking forward to partying? Are you looking forward to the academic experience, getting involved? Involvement can be really hard for new students. So if we need to do work around that to help get them involved, which we know in terms of social capacity is a good way to reduce some of those risks if they're feeling connected on campus. So that's we do that every year. It would be great, and we're not there yet, but I would love to do a follow-up survey. The problem is our students are over-surveyed, so this probably wouldn't get approved by the University Assessment Committee. But I would love to do a follow-up survey, say 6 or 8 weeks into the semester, and track those numbers and see if perceptions have changed, or if substance use patterns have been elevated the first 6 weeks during that red zone on campus, or if they've decreased from incoming use. So there's a lot of room, I think, to continue some of those assessment needs. But where we're at right now is that annual survey. And that's at least great for the incoming class. It doesn't help us with upperclassmen, but it's something. It's a place to start.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you.
Sure.
So curious, for those of you that selected, you've done some sustainability incorporation and capacity. How are you building out capacity to then help sustain your programs? There were 11 of you, so 11 of you have a response. I'd love to hear from one of the 11.
Hi, Nicole. It's Jackie
Hi.
Hartman from Cecil County. How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Sorry. I was just trying to figure out how I was going to answer that, because for capacity, I mean, we have built capacity with pretty strong partnerships all along with our school system and our strong youth serving agency, the Youth Empowerment Source. And they have like a process for our we have prevention clubs in all of the public high schools here, and also last year this past year 2 middle schools, and then they're going to continue and get them in the rest of the middle schools next year with funding. Yes, has applied for. So having the strong partnerships, with the youth serving agency and the schools really helped, make the prevention clubs happen from years ago, starting with 2 kids, and now we're at 43. We have 9 graduating seniors this year, but a way also that they build is, they have to apply to become student leaders in the Youth Coalition, and those leaders go and get trained at different CADGA conferences and the mid-year and year forum. And also we have a youth leadership summit every year in November that the high school students come to, and the middle school summit, and the high school students teach the middle schools. And they're going to the middle schools, and they're in the beginning of the year going to the middle schools to promote their clubs and to spur engagement and participation. And then when they go to the youth leadership summit, then we get a lot of middle school students who want to join the high school clubs in the county club. And then they promote to their peers within the schools. They do many prevention activities and events in the schools and in the county. So the kids are leading it, and they're, getting to the younger kids. And then our goal would be elementary school schools having clubs, but just having them in the middle schools is pretty great. But I say strong partnerships, is really important. Like if you can get into the schools, it's not easy and not overnight. It takes years, to develop that relationship. So developing relationships with strong stakeholders, is important, and keeping them engaged, and getting feedback from them, and talk about surveys, like surveying the kids who are in the clubs, and also they do that at the end of the year, and surveying the leaders, what's going well, what's not, how can we make this better, any improvements. I guess that would be the sustainability, and also being engaged with the coalitions in our county. We have a couple of different drug-free communities coalitions, our tobacco task force, so really strong relationships with all of them, and then their partners, and so that keeps it going.
Sorry, thank you.
I answered your question.
No, you did, yeah.
Okay, good.
Having a cough in a train is the worst. Sorry, guys. So thank you for that. Yeah, I think it's really important, just like building those relationships over time. We'll go more into detail. I just wanted to hear from everyone sort of some examples that you've been able to do. Most of you that responded did share that you have incorporated some sustainability into planning. So can I get a person to share how you were able to think about sustainability when doing your strategic planning efforts? Anyone? People to raise some hands if all right. My one question to everybody, one of the main things for sustainability is really under evaluation. For implementation, it's really kind of that accelerating your wins and seeing how things are going. But in terms of evaluation, everyone, of course, is doing their process and outcome. We're doing that continuous review of what's working, what's not working, making adjustments, dropping things that aren't really, if they're not successful, they're not really then going to be sustainable, or if they need to be, what makes them sustainable. But one key thing is really sharing your evaluation findings, right? To then show what's working, build and like kind of show to be able to then maybe work to sustain those outcomes. So how many of you have been able to share some of your evaluation findings with, with partners, key stakeholders, people in your county to help, build those sustainable efforts and maybe gather new support? Has anyone done that? And if not, is that something you guys have thought about doing? Is that in your planning steps? There were 11 of you at least that said that you have done evaluation, sustainable activities and evaluation. I'm about ready to, call on somebody. But anyone just want to raise your hand if you've shared any evaluation findings that you've collected to be able to really gather more support for sustainability? No?
Hey,
Right.
Nicole, how you doing?
Hi.
This is Ben from Montgomery County.
Hi, Ben.
I was trying to stay quiet. So, so I guess for us, what we've done is really kind of reported out on some of the positive outcomes that we've achieved from some of our interventions. So, for instance, like I speak a lot about like our youth ambassador program, and I know Jackie just spoke about their youth work in her county as well. And I think a lot of the leadership within the county and things like that see the powerful impact that young people can make. And so they want to help you be successful. So seeing how like the school system has, a vested interest in making sure like our youth ambassador program, has members, so they'll promote it within their different networks within the schools and things like that. But also, having adults and other people within like county government see the positive things that young people are doing around facilitating overdose response trainings and things like that. They see, the powerful impact in that as well. So I think sharing those outcomes at like your local alcohol and other drug advisory council meetings and at county council meetings and in our overdose prevention team meetings and even having the kids report out on some of the things that they're doing has helped to build that support and help to, kind of sustain some of those efforts. So, yeah.
Great, thanks. And Baruch, it looked like you started to come on, yeah.
Yeah, so like right now we are doing our cannabis prevention survey that was recently launched. And one of our key aspects of promoting that is we're trying to remind some of our partner agencies, like you will be able to use some of this information potentially in the future for other funding opportunities or other surveys that we've done. We've kind of approached it that way too. It's if all of this data that we are collecting, we can share that with you, so that way we can potentially get grant funding in the future. We've also reached out to other partner agencies when we've applied for various grants in the past and requested their data as well. So we've been able to kind of do it both ways, where we request funding based on other people's data, and then we're also able to share data as well.
Great, thank you. And so Lynn shared in the chat that they share their survey and evaluation results with their AOD council and their OPT. So those are great examples. And then just thinking, next level of maybe how to reach the general community is also helpful. So people understand what is prevention beyond just their typical perceptions, might help find new partners that didn't even know that what's happening. So, all right, thanks everyone. So we'll jump back in. All right. So additionally, SAMHSA has identified 6 steps to sustainability. They kind of are, similar. They are build ownership among stakeholders. So we've shared some ways to do that. Share results to secure more funding, which Brooke just shared us some ways to do that. Track and publicize your outcomes. Identify program champions. Invest in capacity and identify diverse resources. And so I think that's key too, of just thinking beyond, what we might typically think of resources. And capacity is huge. I think we sometimes especially within the SPIF steps, we kind of like just sometimes jump right through it, but there's so much that falls under capacity. And then even within your plan and implementation, there's always capacity steps. And evaluation. So it's kind of throughout, but having that strong partnerships, collaborators, resources, and just really mobilizing the community, advocating your work, that all falls under capacity. And so it's really huge, I think, when moving forward in sustainability. So how do we plan sustainability? So sustainability planning is a process of looking critically at your current prevention infrastructure, processes, and strategies with an eye toward developing the necessary partnerships and resources to sustain your meaningful prevention outcomes beyond your current funding. So when planning for sustainability, there are many things to consider. These are 4 key steps that are important for developing a comprehensive plan. So take inventory and identify priorities, complete a resource and feasibility analysis, develop a communications plan, and implement your sustainability actions. So I'm now going to dig deeper into each step. So the first step is to take inventory of your prevention programs, processes, and outcomes. You want to ask the following questions. So what is working well? What is not working? and which are still developing or being refined. These questions will help us prioritize what to sustain and how. Programs that are running smoothly and showing promising results could be adopted by a partner. Programs or processes that are still taking shape and have the potential to impact outcomes can be sustained through further funding led by one's agencies, grant funding, coalition support, fundraising, etc. Programs that are not working or have been a struggle to get off the ground should not be a priority or consideration in your sustainability plan. You want to examine all your interventions. Determine, is your intervention achieving its desirable outcomes now or moving in that right direction? Do you have adequate resources? Are you well equipped with staff, supplies, and space? Is your intervention valued by community leaders, key stakeholders, and the public? Are you the right group to sustain the successful intervention? We know a lot of you as the health departments are maybe jumpstart these interventions, but are you the ones that maybe for long-term sustainability are the ones that would be the most effective to maybe implement it over time? Or are there other partner agencies or, groups, schools, after school, all of those types of organizations that maybe would be more successful to be able to sustain it over long term? And then you want to develop your sustainability goals once your priorities have been identified. Engage your partners and collaborators in goal setting. So the next step is to complete a resource and feasibility analysis. This step is determine what you will need exactly to meet each of your sustainability goals. Conducting a resource and feasibility analysis will help you select strategies to secure the required resources and cover projected costs. Which fiscal strategies will be most successful for sustaining sustainability? A strategy is only feasible if these two conditions are met. It's a good fit for what you want to accomplish, and you have access to a partner willing to deliver what you need. Fiscal strategies include full or partial program adoption by a community partner, systems or policy change that are fully integrated into an existing structure. That's always like a nice goal, right? We'd love for a lot of these things to just be integrated into like common practice. A variety of strategies to raise revenue, including not just grants, but also maybe donations and in-kind commitments. You can use a feasibility checklist for each of your sustainability goals. And when we send the follow-up, we have examples of different feasibility checklists that you could utilize as part of the resources that we have. So that will help you to kind of go through and assess each of those things and kind of see what works based on your current efforts, your partners, and the local conditions for your community. So your next step is really focusing on developing a communication plan for requesting resources and revenue from potential sources of support. So first, establish a framework to guide your communication efforts. Identify the different sectors, audience, and/or partners to engage and develop the communications accordingly. You want to create a case statement that describes your sustainability efforts. So what is a case statement? It's a clear and concise summary that explains why sustaining your community efforts matter. This is a great one-pager. We can, of course, assist you with that, but this is a great way to sort of summarize and make it nice, clear, and concise what you're doing and why it's important. So the case statement describes who you are, what the focus is, and why it matters, your sustainability goals and the supporting data that you have. What are the collaborating organizations, your needs, either new partnerships or funds? So remember, you might be asking just for partnerships. You're not necessarily asking for money when it comes to resources. And how the reader, the person you're sharing this information with, can help accomplish that, and any contact information. So once you've identified whom to engage with, you would develop a marketing and communication plan, which includes the audience, tasks required to communicate the value and importance of your work to the audience, and the resources and technology needed. So just like any communication plan based on your audience, you determine what exactly the message should be for that recipient and how best to reach them, and the tools needed to then disseminate those efforts. So all of these previous steps sort of establish a sustainability action plan. So through your plan, overall, your plan would include your sustainability goals, the chosen resource strategy based on the feasibility assessment, who will take the lead on your identified tasks and who will support the action, and what tasks need to be accomplished to implement the plan and achieve the goal, the resources and technology needed to implement the fiscal strategy, and when you hope to complete each task. Think about how you can integrate and align your sustainability plan with your current prevention implementation plan. A lot of these steps seem to overlap. And like I said, sustainability is woven throughout a lot of our current efforts. So just really think about sometimes when you're doing your steps, some of it might be for longer term sustainability efforts and some are for your current efforts. Which I literally just said this, but I'll say it again. Remember, sustainability is integral to the SWIFT process and part of your broader strategic planning process. Overall, it's important to be able to provide updates and respond to changes. So prevention is always evolving, needs of your community are evolving. So you have to be able to respond to the changing environment, the changing needs of your community. And so your plan is always a working document. So you're not stuck to that. All right, I'm going to send it over to Rana.
Thanks, Nicole. So how do we keep effective programs sustained over time? Well, it takes more than money. And how do we improve capacity for sustainability? We need to build our understanding of the factors that impact a program. The program sustainability tool uses a sustainability framework that identifies a small set of organizational and contextual domains that can help build the capacity for maintaining a program. There are many sustainability frameworks that exist. This is one example of the sustainability framework. In the resources slide, we'll share another framework and toolkit you can use that includes 12 factors to assess and plan in order to sustain improved outcomes. Now let's look more into the sustainability framework. The first step in improving sustainability capacity is understanding the factors that impact a program. In this framework, there are 8 key domains that can influence a program's capacity for sustainability. We'll go over each one and why they matter while presenting their action steps. The first is environmental support, which is having a supportive internal and external climate for your program. Why does environmental support matter? No matter the level at which your program operates, the overall economic and political climate will affect your ability to get things done. Whether decision makers support your cause, they deserve your attention. Work to get people of influence on your side, both within and outside of your organization. Often these decision makers control the money, and if you want some for your program, you'll need them to know and like your program. In addition, champions can get policies passed that benefit your target population and help achieve your program goals. The second is funding stability, which is establishing a consistent financial base for your program. Again, why does it matter? Planning for stable funding should be a strategic process that addresses the long-term needs of your program and adjusts to changing trends in economic and political cycles. Funding highs and lows put stress on programs and make it difficult to provide consistent and quality services. Programs that rely on a single funding source rather than multiple sources are more vulnerable when funding cuts occur. So for all these reasons, it's important to build a stable and diverse funding base. The third is partnerships, which is cultivating connections between your program and its partners. Again, why does it matter? Partners play an important role in sustainability in several ways, connecting you to greater resources or expertise, providing services if your program has to cut back, and advocating on behalf of your cause. Partners can also help rally the community around your program and its goals. They can range from business leaders and media representatives to organizations addressing similar issues and community members. When your program is threatened either politically or financially, your partners can be some of your greatest champions. Building awareness and capacity for sustainability requires a strategic approach and partners across sectors. including alliances between private and public organizations. The fourth is organizational capacity, which is having internal support and resources needs to effectively manage your program. Again, why does it matter? Organizational capacity encompasses a wide range of capabilities, knowledge, and resources. For example, having enough staff and strong leadership can make a big difference in accomplishing your program goals. Cultivating and strengthening your program's internal support can also increase your program's likelihood of long-term success. The fifth is program evaluation, which is assessing your program to inform planning and document results. Evaluation helps keep your program on track with its goals and outcomes. If evaluation data shows that an activity or strategy isn't working, you can correct your program's course to become more effective. Moreover, collecting data about your program's successes and impact is a powerful tool for gaining support and funding. If your evaluation data shows that your program is making an important impact, you can make a strong case for why your program needs to continue. Even in times of decreased funding, evaluation and monitoring data are key for the pursuit of new funding sources. The sixth is program adaptation, which is taking actions that adapt your program to ensure its ongoing effectiveness. So why does it matter? Circumstances change, and sometimes your program needs to as well. The goal is not necessarily to sustain all of a program's components over time, but rather to sustain the most effective components and their benefits to your target group. This requires flexibility, adaptation to changing conditions, and quality improvement within your program. By using your evaluation data and current evidence base, you can ensure that your program effectively uses resources and continues having an impact. The seventh is communications, which means to have strategic communications with partners and the public about your program. Again, like we keep asking, why do these matter? People need to know what your program does and why it's important. Communicating externally about your program's effectiveness helps the program gain greater visibility and build support from partners and the public. Internally, evidence that a program works builds staff buy-in and support from organizational leaders. The more people know and care about your program and mission, the more likely they are to support your efforts to continue providing services in the long term. And the final domain is strategic planning, which is using processes that guide your program's directions, goals, and strategies. Strategic planning is the glue that holds sustainability efforts together. Without a strategic direction and long-term goals, programs find themselves only reacting to day-to-day demands. Strategic planning combines elements of all the sustainability domains into an outcome-oriented plan. Planning also ensures that the program is well aligned with the larger external and organizational environment. So like Nicole said, we have a couple of tools. So in the next slides, we're just going to give you a quick snapshot of them, and we'll send them after the presentation. So this is the program sustainability assessment tool, and this is just more in depth about the 8 domains that we just went over. This is the collaboration multiplier to help you understand your collaboration and capacity. And then finally, the sustaining improvement outcomes toolkit that goes over the 12 factors to develop a sustainability plan.
All right, so now we're going to do some breakouts. But first I'll go over what we're going to do. So luckily we have a good amount of time. And so we have 5 questions that we can definitely give enough time for us to make sure that we gather a lot of discussion from everyone. And then we'll come back and share. So with these questions, we want you to think a couple things. Think about your program. Some of the questions you can think of a specific program. So program meaning one of your, strategies, either your program policy or practice that you are implementing. And then you can think of some things as your overall comprehensive approach, of your overall plan, and what things might be overall components of your plan that you'd want to sustain, and then also for if you have examples of a specific strategy, so specific program, practice, or policy that you want to discuss, and are there key components within that that you think would be more sustainable versus the overall strategy and the overall program. All right, so what I'm going to do first is figure out how, unless, Rana, are you able to, since I have the shared mode, are you able to copy these questions into the chat from the
Yeah, I can do that.
other? So we'll do that, and then I'll work on separating us into our groups. So we're gonna give ourselves at like Mary did it that way as a screenshot. Very nice. Thanks, Mary. Perfect. All right. So, all right. So I'm gonna put us into rooms, and there'll be 4 rooms. Myself, Rana, Helene, and Brooke will help facilitate, but obviously, and we could have, well, one person take notes, and then we have enough time. So I'm going to give us like at least 20 minutes, and then we'll come back and have time to then share. So let me create this and make sure that before I move I got to move some people. Okay, Rana's there. Okay, so I will add myself to room 2, and everyone else, we're good to go. All right, I'm going to open the rooms.